Jerry Jones, every Tuesday with Sean and RJ, brought to you by your North Texas Ford dealers. Ford, built for Texas, built for you. Good morning, Jerry. How are you?
Sean, RJ, I'm doing great. Still doing what you shouldn't be doing, I guess, on Tuesday. Maybe we're still close enough to Monday to still be savoring that win. It was an exciting day for us, an exciting time, I think, for our team, really. We can build on this. And you said in your opening, believe you me, that real sound coming from those fans out there was very distinctive. We had the piped-in sound earlier when we played last weekend. And there is no question that the enthusiasm of the crowd was a part of just the overall scene. Now, I know there's stats that say, well, crowd noise wins 50% of the time or doesn't, and we've got all those kinds of things. But, boy, it was real. It helped, made a big difference. And the most important thing is it just felt like old times out there with that crowd.
Jerry, describe the feeling you had during the onside recovery and then the game-winning field goal kick. And can you remember another Cowboy feeling like that as of late? A lot of people were throwing out the Romo Bills game with the 6 different turnovers coming back to win. Can you remember another feeling like that while watching that type of comeback?
I really can't. That was the one that went immediately to my mind. When we were in Buffalo, I actually was watching the game with one of the key members I was watching the game with Michael Irvin. And, of course, when we had the kind of comeback we had under the adversity of the 5 interceptions and the way things were going up there in Buffalo, and then take that win was something you'll never forget. And we won't forget this one. I won't forget this one. This was a thrill. It was nothing like a good plan coming together, and, of course, that's what happened on that onside kick. It really, I think in general, when we talk about, and I'm going to get ahead of you, I'm sure, here, when I talk about some of the decisions we made throughout the game, going for it on 4th down a couple of times, and really trying it on a fake punt disguise as opposed to just going for it. But we forget the emotional aspect of playing this game. And it is there almost in every situation. And you can take statistics or you can take the odds, and if that's the way you play it, then you eliminate about 80% of what goes into making a successful player, in my mind, winning. It's not so much the decision, right or wrong, when you make it. It's how you respond after you make it. And I think that's the way it is off the football field in business. Nobody's smart enough to do better than 50-50 on decision-making. Nobody in the world is. It's what you do with it after you've made it. If you've made a good decision, let it run long, use it, use the enthusiasm of it. But if you made a bad one, make the adjustments. And a lot of times the bad decisions have been the things that have made it. I know in my business life, bad decisions, getting in a spot, getting in a hard time, has really caused me in the long run to have turned out a lot better.
Jerry Jones joined us here at 105 through the Fan. So, part of these decisions, like, the 2-point conversion, deciding to go for 2, you're down 15, you score, you go for 2. When you're up there in the booth, like in the suite, do you have like like the chart handy that they're using down there, or are you doing math on the fly like we are, trying to see if this is the smart decision to go for 2 in this situation?
Look, I've got. Do you realize that if you could do this by statistics? If you could do this thing called life, if we could do it by statistics and charts, for instance, in business, the banks have all the money. And so all they'd need to do is hire all of the smart graduates, let them work on their charts, and then they'd just take that money, and then they would go out and use those charts, and they'd make all the money. That's so stupid. charts, stats. It's a place for it. It's a place to have it. But then there's instincts and there's motivation. And I would obviously you've heard this till you're blue in the face. I'd have never bought the Cowboys based on statistics or based on charts or based on good information, because all the information said run from them, not buy them.
Half the reason we like having you on is to talk football. The other half is to get the life lessons with business and everything else. Jerry Jones every Tuesday here on The Fan. Now, Jerry, we got to balance the win with the very real possibility that you guys could have been 0-2. How do you balance that, and what are you worried about with your team that could have been going to Seattle this week staring 0-2 in the face?
Well, I think this. We've got, again, we have a lot of our football ahead of us, obviously. And I would have been saying that had we been 0-2 of how much that we've got ahead of us. You just don't like to, when at the end of the time, whether you go to the playoffs or how you advance is a numerical thing, and you don't like to get those on the other side of the ledger from you and have to be making them up. But apart from that, it is just the enthusiasm, just the overcoming some of the very things that we're talking about this morning is what encourages me going to Seattle. Now, we've got a lot of work. We're not taking a football team into Seattle that's really hitting on all cylinders at all. We've got a lot of work to do. You saw it defensively. We've got some serious work to do. We've got alignments to work on. We've got basic, if you will, defensive technique to work on. We're still working through the kinds of things you might be working through midway through training camp. Now, other teams are too. And so we've got a lot to work on, but that's the good news. Boy, if you needed anything for this team was to get out around those fans at the stadium, get out around a win like that, that'll do more than if we'd have had another month to work on techniques and structure of our defensive alignment against each one of these teams. This game, folks, this game is about passion. This game is about who wants it the most. It's more about that than it is some of the things we run in analytics.
Jerry, do you feel like you guys had a legitimate home crowd advantage on Sunday, and where can it go from here? And what did you get in terms of your reports back on the fan experience for those that were able to make it to the game?
Well, we've gone to a lot of trouble to ask our fans how we could do it better, particularly in areas of safety. And we were quite pleased with how it worked out there Sunday. Can we do better? Of course we can. But can we have more fans? Yes, we can, and we can do it safely. And we will adjust accordingly. And we could have had more fans, but we wanted to go at this particular level. But there's no question. Now, as far as home field advantage, in 30 years, 31, 32 years in the NFL, I've never seen anybody worried about a home field advantage at the league level or at the team level. You always thought you were trying to get a home field advantage. Now, getting it's something else. But you always were trying to work toward a home field advantage. And to the end that teams want to be aggressive and put fans in the stands safely, and certainly have fans out there that are not vulnerable to the extent you aren't as opposed to others. Do it that way, but have those fans out there. I think the NFL has done a great job of getting our game going on time, getting in the thick of it. We've actually kind of had to wake up, if you will, to some degree, our fans by not having preseason, by kind of having this COVID mentality. And so this early part of this season has been a wake-up call, so to speak, But, boy, here it comes. We're doing some exciting things out there, and I think the NFL is going to have a big year in spite of the COVID.
Jerry Jones joins us here, 105 through the Fan. Do you have an update on Tyron, and how concerned are you long-term, about his health for the next few weeks?
Well, the update is actually he didn't play last week in preparation so that he could have a better chance of playing this week or in the future. I'm going to say it one more time. He didn't play last week in part because we made preparations for the future. And it wasn't impossible to have had him out there last week had we done a couple of things differently. But by design, we didn't do it that way. We wanted to look to the long term, or the longer term being the next games, the ones we're getting ready to play. So I feel as good as you can feel. I don't know. And nobody knows right now until we get out there and see how he's operating during the week here at practice. But, for the longer term, I feel good about it. He's had these periods over the last few years when he's had to adjust and literally on a week-by-week basis as to what he's doing with some nerves. It's called stingers. Those type of things are the kind of thing he's dealing with.
Jerry, DeMarcus Lawrence is getting a lot of criticism from fans. We know he had limited snaps because of a leg issue. What is your assessment of Tank, the way he's been playing, and how is he feeling health-wise?
Well, he's sound physically in my mind. Now, does he have a nick or he have nicks? Absolutely. But the main thing we found out, and when we did, we put it on him, good, as you know, a commitment on him, is that heart inside him. Now, you're talking about a guy that will give you everything he's got, and he'll give it all day long, and he'll run completely across the field just to get an angle. But he's going to give you everything he's got. And as we adjust our defense, and we will adjust our defense, as we adjust that, as we get the right combinations of, I'm going to say tact, T-A-C-T, tact. As we make these adjustments, then you're going to see him have more production. But make no mistake about it, he's the integral or an integral part of what we've got to get to on our pressure.
Jerry, I know you guys have tried to fill from within. That was your preferred way of going about it. Do you see bringing in any outside help? Ron Leary, Earl Thomas, anybody else like that? Obviously not Ron, but anyone else to come in here to help out an injured roster?
Yeah, you're going to have to keep your eyes open this year and keep loose. You're going to have to do that personnel-wise. This is the rosters were expanded. Different rules that you've got relative to your practice squad, to bringing them over, who gets exposed, can you bring them over without exposing them being another team, have the ability to get them. All of that was loosened up because it was anticipated during this COVID that you could have players that, dare I say injury, more incidents of injury because you're having more players play that don't have weeks and weeks and weeks of competitive conditioning, and I emphasize the word competitive conditioning. No one knew. This is a first. There were times when they spent weeks and weeks and weeks in years past working out in training camp type environment, going light on the contact, but weeks and weeks and weeks in a competitive situation. That makes a difference. You just can't push yourself hard enough without supervision, in my mind. And so with all of that in mind, I think we will see more, not turnovers, not the word, but you'll see more time spent adding players to rosters, and that won't just be us. That'll be throughout the NFL.
Jerry, TV ratings down 20% for week 2, down 20% for week 1 locally in DFW. Monday Night Football opener in DFW, the doubleheader was down about 50%. Are these raising eyebrows, these numbers around the league? What do you make of it? What do you think the reason is for the drop in the TV ratings?
Well, whatever it is, it's a long way out front from anything else. It's a long way out in front of anything else. And so you have to look at just the time being spent relative to traditional television. You have to look at measurements, how we're measuring the time spent on your digital area, all of those things. Not excuses in any way. I'm just proud that our game has the strength of viewership and has the strength of interest that makes it, I think, last week we were the top 5 programs in television. And, of course, you've got a lot of, if you will, transition going from some of the cable viewership. I think that viewership, there were pretty close to 100 and something million subscribers 10 years ago. Now they're 88 million subscribers. So that's down 10 or 12% from where it was. Now, you've had growth during that time, so you've got to factor that you didn't get that share of the growth. But then you've had a swing over to the digital world, and that world now is being combined, coordinated in with traditional television. All of that has always been, since I've been involved in the NFL, not me being involved, but since I've been involved, we have benefited from such keen interest. You can take all the major sports there are and add them all up, and we still are many, many times that viewership. Now, where I'm coming from here is you can't just dwell in on a given weekend or a given circumstance. A lot of times we've noticed last few years you have a lot of downtime and down rating time when you have an election year, especially a presidential election year. All of that you'd consider. I do know this, that it's the strongest as far as getting somebody in front of a TV set that is going to make a decision in this country, an economic decision in this country. As far as getting those people in front of a TV set, the NFL is going in a way the most efficient, economically way to get your message out to a decision maker in this country.
Well, look, Jerry, when you guys win like you did on Sunday, you make us happier, you make DFW happier, you give us an uplifting spirit throughout the entire week. Let's keep it going for Sunday in Seattle. Congratulations on a historic, unbelievable win, and let's try to get to 2-1.
Well, I agree. I had to pinch myself. I was sitting there after that game the other day, and I can remember 30-something years ago, and I said, I just cannot believe that it's as exciting as it is to get to be a part of a win like this under these circumstances. And it's just like the old died and gone to heaven. I think a truck hit me 30 years ago, and I've been in heaven for 30 years.
Jerry Jones every single Tuesday with Sean and RJ. Told y'all we were going to celebrate. Jerry, stay safe. Have a great week. We'll talk to you on Tuesday.
Thank you, guys.